As you know, our visions are all homes and buildings in Aotearoa are green and sustainable, making healthier, happier New Zealanders. Talk through this a little bit and then really look forward to your thoughts, Denise, and Davina's thoughts also. So I've borrowed a slide from Sam Archer just to set out, the kind of focus for the NZGBC and how we try to drive change. So what you've got here is industry thought leaders and experts who want to get things done, and they drive the supply chain to improve. They join as a member of ours, connect up and drive change. And then that industry normalisation and acceptance as change starts to happen. And that enables the delivery of legislative change, which we drive through advocacy. So as an illustration, we've been pushing for a long time for a better building code. And when we're asked, is this possible, Andrew? We're able to say, yes, actually, we've got hundreds, now thousands of homes that are all building to significantly beyond the building code, and we've got hundreds of buildings. Equally, is it possible to put energy labels on existing buildings like neighbours? And we can say, it damn is. We've got hundreds of buildings that have been through. We've got the people in the sector who can do that. It's proven by those annoying Australians who are doing it so well. So that's our loop, and that's how we drive change. So I don't like to say this when my staff and colleagues are around, but we're actually plan to do ourselves out of business because if we do this right, then we won't be needed at all. Now, the reality is we can move on to existing buildings because new buildings will start first, but the goal is to get this happening without the need for Green Star and Home Star because it just drives change. So, Callum, that's your job. Do us out of business. He's trying, yeah. So our specific advocacy goals for the next year, and I always welcome input on this, is energy certificates on homes and buildings at point of sale. The Prime Minister and Megan Woods are interested in this. They chuckled when they said that. And a building code that delivers a zero carbon future and low embodied carbon. So that's Building for Climate Change program. And that government leads by certifying new builds and fit outs to green standards that are above the building code. So first of all, what do you think of those? Put your hand up if you support those, if you think those are pretty useful. That's great. So that's about 90%, and 10% are still eating the cake from lunch. So I'll take that. But we genuinely welcome feedback. So I'm just going to go through each of those. So on energy certificates, it was funny that the Prime Minister said to me, look, Andrew, I'm quite excited about energy performance certificates. And Minister Woods said it's not often you hear people put it like that. But you can see here before the election, they did announce an interest in housing energy certification, and you've heard from Minister Poto-Williams that they are looking at that. I think that's this huge potential. My point here is that housing certification is going to take some time to create. We need to get the health element right. We need to get it right for Aotearoa and what we need. But we've got a proven system in New Zealand. It has delivered $1 billion worth of energy savings for Australian businesses. It's available now. People are using it. We've trained up people. So let's just pick up and use neighbours. And so my goal is to get this government to commit to neighbours in this term, right? We've got 2 years and 4 months left. And I think we can do that. Labor have a majority. If you'd like to support that, do get in touch. Right, number 2, the building code, Building for Climate Change. So you heard from the Minister about support from the industry, so thank you everyone who believes in this. We are focused here on keeping the program robust, ensuring the training is adequate and gives a real pathway for people to understand how to do a thermal bridge calculation. How do you get an air tightness test of your home? These sorts of basic questions that we're going to need. And we need a national program where builders in Taupo, builders in Invercargill go and try out in a home, and they learn about that. I think there's potential to simplify. So in Australia, both Green Star and a neighbour's commitment can count towards the building code calculations. So you guys aren't having to redo calculations. Might be something we could look at. And we want to help the sector prepare So we often get asked, what might these caps that this chap Callum is delivering, what do they actually look like, and how can we evidence that? So what Sam Archer and Danny and the technical team have done is some really great work in developing Homestar version 5 to align with the Building for Climate Change caps. So I'll just show you that now. So what I've put up on the slide there is that the potential operational carbon caps that MB have set out. They've set those down, and the possible timings, right? So I'm not saying that's happening, that's a potential time frame. But in our tool for residential, under the new version, Homestar version 5, which will be released in 3 months, Sam? There you go, you heard it here first. 3 months or so is the new version 5 will mean that you can say to your chief executive and to your clients, when we do Homestar 7, we are meeting the operational caps that are in, is likely to be in the Building for Climate Change cap level 1. The building code changes that will happen at 2024. The same for 2027 and 2030. So what we're doing is trying to provide a pathway and a bit of certainty. And similarly with Green Star, you can set out the caps set down by the building code and evidence that through the energy caps. And then for embodied carbon, Homestar version 5 includes embodied carbon calculator that we're working on in some depth. And Green Star enables life cycle analysis as well to evidence what MB might come up with on embodied carbon. So number 3 was government leading by building to green standards. So you might have heard us bang on about this a bit, but prior to the election, Labor and the Greens both made a manifesto commitment for new government buildings to be built to green standards. Great step forward. So we, along with 58 of you, have written to ministers to say, when is this happening? We'd like to see action on this. The electoral cycle in New Zealand, as you know, Denise, is quite short, isn't it? So we need the electoral term. So we need to drive that, and we've been down in Wellington pushing for that. There's a great letter we wrote to the Minister in your Herald supplement on the tables. And then finally, we've developed a new guide mapping how government's goals align and how you can evidence the meeting of those. So there's an additional line there, but and I'll talk about that new guide now. So with the Green Building Council of Australia, on Tuesday, we will launch a joint guide which sets out how social infrastructure, by that we mean schools, hospitals, community buildings, swimming pools, buildings that government create, can help achieve climate change goals, save money for government, and create a healthier, more efficient, productive places for the people to work, heal and recreate. So what do we mean? Well, what we've set out in the document is how you can evidence meeting the new government property group's procurement goals. So I don't know, has anyone been noticing these have been ratcheting up? It also sets out the sustainable development goals and delivery on that, and the carbon neutral public sector program, where the whole of the public sector needs to be carbon neutral by 2025 or pay for offsets. Becky is going to be busy. So clearly 9 sustainable development goals are met through delivering to green rating tools, both houses or buildings. And here are the new procurement construction guidelines for the public sector, talking about low impact sustainable construction materials, reducing construction waste, minimising energy and water consumption. So this document will come out when we send a thank you for coming to the conference on Tuesday. You'll receive a link to this new document which will help you with your public sector clients. Just some good evidence there around the reductions in energy use and greenhouse gas emissions from delivering to green ratings. And there's beautiful Turanga Christchurch Library on the right. And here, Te Manawa Westgate School very good evidence from the World Green Building Council on how building better delivers healthier outcomes. So I spent a bit of time catching up with ministers and things in Wellington, and the reason I couldn't make the Champagne event last night was we and a number of your colleagues were down in Wellington talking about some of this and driving that change. You can see us there meeting Stuart Nash. I just thought I'd give a couple of slides on what we plan to do this year to make our tools simpler and easier to use. One is that we're planning to move to simpler language, so rather than indoor environment quality, we're talking about healthy buildings. Rather than complex language, we're talking about resilience and positive. So we'll be consulting with you on that over the next year. And then finally, we're looking to move and get a lot tighter on carbon, both operational carbon and embodied carbon. So to give an illustration, we'll be wanting to talk to you about the potential of saying, well, if you're going to get a 6 Green Star from this date forward, it has to be 0 operational carbon and evidenced out. And that can ratchet up to 5 and 4 star. So we plan to consult on that over the next year, and changes come through next year. That's our advocacy plan. I really look forward to hearing PCNZ's work and also Green Building Council of Australia. Was that useful? Some of that seemed sensible? Awesome. Kia ora. Thanks a lot.